Picture this, it's 2 a.m. in a dimly lit recording studio in Nashville, 1965. Johnny Cash sits slumped over his guitar, his famous black clothes wrinkled and stained. His hands shake as he tries to tune the strings, but the pills he's taken have made his fingers numb. This wasn't the Johnny Cash the world knew. This was a man drowning in his own success, fighting a battle that nearly cost him everything. But what drove the man in black to such darkness? And how did a woman named June Carter become his unlikely savior? Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about Johnny Cash's greatest love story. The year was 1958 when Johnny Cash first met June Carter backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. She was performing with the Carter family, country music royalty, while Johnny was still climbing his way to fame. What nobody knew was that Johnny was already struggling with amphetamines, those little white pills that helped him stay awake during endless tours and late-night recording sessions. June later recalled that first meeting in her memoir, Johnny's eyes were already showing signs of the addiction that would consume him. She described them as restless and searching, like a caged animal looking for escape. But there was something else in those dark eyes, something that made her heart skip a beat. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Johnny wasn't just battling pills because of the pressure of fame. According to his own confession years later, the addiction started much earlier, rooted in a childhood tragedy that haunted him his entire life. His older brother Jack, his best friend and moral compass, had died in a horrific sawmill accident when Johnny was just 12. Johnny blamed himself for not being there, for going fishing instead of working with Jack that fatal day. Imagine carrying that guilt for decades. The pills weren't just keeping Johnny awake during tours, they were numbing a pain that had been eating at him since childhood. But as the 1960s rolled on, what started as a coping mechanism became a monster that controlled every aspect of his life. By 1965, Johnny Cash was taking up to 100 pills a day. Amphetamines to stay awake, barbiturates to sleep, and anything in between to function. His first wife Vivian watched helplessly as the man she married disappeared behind a pharmaceutical haze. Their 4 daughters barely recognized their father when he stumbled home from tours, if he came home at all. But June Carter was watching too. She joined Johnny's touring show in 1961, and night after night, she witnessed his descent into hell. Other band members later revealed that June would often find Johnny passed out in hotel bathrooms, sometimes barely breathing. She'd sit with him, singing softly until he came to, never once judging him for his weakness. What would you do if you saw someone you cared about destroying themselves right before your eyes? June faced this choice every single day for nearly 7 years. The breaking point came during a show in Dallas, 1967. Johnny was so high on pills that he forgot the words to "I Walk the Line," his own signature song. The audience began booing, and Johnny, in a moment of drug-fueled rage, smashed his guitar and walked off stage. June found him later that night, sitting in his tour bus, crying like a broken child. "I can't do this anymore, June," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm killing myself, and I'm killing everyone who loves me." This was the moment everything changed. But not in the way you might expect. June didn't give Johnny an ultimatum. She didn't threaten to leave or demand he choose between her and the pills. Instead, she made a decision that would save both their lives. She told Johnny she would help him get clean, but only if he promised to do one thing: write the song they'd been working on together, the one that would later become "It Ain't Me Babe." You see, June knew something about Johnny that even he didn't realize. His music was his lifeline, his connection to the world when everything else felt meaningless. By focusing on their creative collaboration, she was giving him a reason to stay alive that went deeper than romance or obligation. The next 6 months were hell on earth. Johnny locked himself in his cabin at Old Hickory Lake, going through withdrawal while June visited him daily, sometimes bringing her children, sometimes just sitting in silence. She later described hearing him scream through the walls, seeing him shake so violently he couldn't hold a coffee cup. But something remarkable happened during those dark winter months of 1967. As Johnny's body fought to free itself from the chemicals, his mind began to clear. And in that clarity, he began to see June not just as his savior, but as the woman who had loved him at his absolute worst and never given up hope. Their breakthrough came on a snowy February morning. Johnny had been clean for 3 weeks, the longest stretch in nearly a decade. June arrived at his cabin to find him sitting at his piano, playing a melody she'd never heard before. When she walked in, he looked up and sang the opening lines of what would become Jackson, their first real duet. The song wasn't just about 2 lovers, it was about 2 souls who had walked through fire together and emerged stronger on the other side. When they performed it together for the first time at a small venue in Memphis, the audience could feel the electricity between them, the raw honesty of 2 people who had survived the worst and found love in the ashes. Johnny proposed to June on stage during a concert in London, Ontario, in February 1968, almost exactly 1 year after his darkest moment in that cabin. When she said yes, he wasn't just gaining a wife, he was claiming back his life. Their marriage in March 1968 marked the beginning of Johnny's legendary comeback. Clean and clear-headed for the first time in years, he recorded some of his most powerful work, including Folsom Prison Blues Live at Folsom Prison, a performance that reminded the world why they called him the Man in Black. June and Johnny remained married for 35 years until her death in 2003. Johnny followed her just 4 months later, proving that their love story was as eternal as the songs they sang together. I leave you with the song Johnny loved to listen to with June on quiet evenings at their home, It Ain't Me Babe. See you in the next video.